So for number one, we have the integral of cosine cubed x times sine to the fourth x dx. So what we're looking for here is a positive and odd uh, variable, I guess. So if we have cosine 3x, so we're going to use that. When we can use our trigonometric identity of cosine squared x is equal to 1 minus sine squared x. So we can write that out and leave out the last cosine x and leave the sine to the fourth x dx alone. From there, we can use u substitution where u equals sine x and du is cosine x dx. So using u substitution, the 1 minus sine squared x becomes 1 minus u squared. The sine to the fourth x dx becomes u to the fourth, and that goes into we get u to the fourth minus u to the sixth du from our u substitution. So anti-deriving that, we get 1/5 u to the fifth minus 1/7 u to the seventh plus c, and then finally we plug in our u and du back into the equation, back into what we just got, and we should get sine to the fifth x over 5 minus sine to the seventh x over 7 plus c, and that's our final answer. Okay, so for number two, we have the integral of x squared over square root of 36 minus x squared dx. So using the triangle method, we have x equals 6 sine theta, and using the triangle method, we can find sine theta, which is x over 6, so divide everything by 6. And then, so we can plug into the triangle. We have the hypotenuse is 6, and the opposite angle, is x. So that makes the adjacent side square root of 36 minus x squared, and we got that using the Pythagorean theorem. And then the derivative of 6 sine theta is just 6 cosine theta d theta. Okay, from here we can start plugging in things into our equation. So the numerator becomes, so we plug in 6 sine theta for x squared, and to square that, so it becomes 36 sine squared theta for the numerator, and in the denominator we keep the radical, and it becomes 36 minus 36 sine squared theta. So again, we're just plugging in 6 sine theta for all x's, and then we have, and that's all multiplied by 6 cosine theta d theta. So using a trig identity, we can turn 36 sine squared theta into 1 minus sine squared theta. So simplifying all that, we are left with 36 sine squared theta, and we can move the 36 to the outside of the integrand to get 36 multiplied with the integral of sine squared theta d theta, and that becomes 36 integral of 1 minus cosine 2 theta over 2 d theta, and that's just another trig identity. So simplifying everything, dividing by 2, we get 18 integral of 1 minus cosine 2 theta d theta. So using the interval 2 theta equals 2 sine theta cosine theta, we get 18 theta minus sine theta cosine theta plus c. So the theta becomes arc sine over 6 because of the triangle method of the Pythagorean theorem. And then we know that sine theta is x over 6, so we can plug in x over 6 for sine theta, and that's multiplied by cosine theta, which is square root of 36 minus x squared. So once plugging all that in, we get 18 arc sine x over 6 minus x times the square root of 36 minus x squared over 2 plus c, and that's our final answer. And then multiplying everything by 2 over 2 gives us 6 over 2 multiplied by the square root of 8 minus x, and that just makes anti-deriving everything a little bit easier. So moving 6 to the outside, we get negative 6, and then the integral of negative 1 over 2 to multiplied by the square root of 8 minus x. Since 8 is discontinuous, we have to rewrite our entire function as a limit. So we have negative 6, limit as t approaches 8 from the left. So we have numbers from 0 to 8. And that becomes, so negative 6, the limit of t as t approaches 8 from the left. And then the integral of negative 1 over 2 times 8. Negative 1 over 2 times the square root of 8 minus x, sorry. And I forgot to mention it goes from 0 to t, because it only includes numbers less than 8. So rewriting everything, we get negative 6, the limit as t approaches 8 from the left, and the antiderivative of our original function. So that becomes square root of 8 minus x on the interval of 0 to t. And so plugging everything in, we get negative 6, limit as t approaches 8 from the left of square root of 8 minus x minus square root of 8 minus 0. And on the graph, square root of 8 minus t, that goes to 0, so we can rewrite that in our next step. So after everything, we have negative 6, as we said earlier, 0 minus the square root of 8 minus 0. So the square root of 8 minus 0 becomes 2 root 2, and once we solve everything, we get 12 root 2. And since 12 root 2 is an actual number, we know that the graph converges.